Okay, so racism. One of those things where people say it's taught. This is a taught behavior. This is not, people aren't born racist. Now, I've had a theory a long time ago. I'm not a psychiatrist, so I don't analyze people. But just to throw this out there as an amateur. People are pre-wired, I believe, with personality traits. That's how come one parent or two parents can raise children, or 3 or 4 children in the same house, and they all turn out different. I believe that you are pre-wired from birth with certain personality aspects that will be predominant as you get older. Now, life changes, and life happenings and life period will change the way you behave and respond, but from the beginning you had something else in you. Like me, for instance, I have always been inquisitive. I've always wanted to know. I always questioned. That's just who I was. I was not taught to question everything. I just did. I talk all the time, so naturally questions follow. And there are some people who just are just ornery, and they just hate. They're just disgusting. Now, is that a learned behavior? Did they get that from somewhere? Or is it conditional? Like, their hate only comes out in these situations, otherwise they love everybody. Is it something you were taught? Is it something that's in you? Is it environmental? Like my father, for instance. He grew up in a time where he was called the N-word. He grew up in a time where in his history books there were pictures of black men hanging out of trees in the history book. So a person like that can grow up to have a skewed vision of white people. So what I want to know, is racism taught, or it's all coming right here then, or is it in us? I was watching a series on Animal Planet. It's called The Big Cat Diary. And there was this animal, it was a gazelle. And the gazelle is brown on top and then white underneath. And the other gazelle that was being filmed at the time, it wasn't about the gazelle, they just happened to see one that was all white. They chased it and chased it and chased it. He'd get close, he'd eat, and then they'd come chasing off the other gazelles because he looked different. So, is that something that's just in creatures on this planet when you are different and you look different? That you're just hated for some reason. Now, you could also take this all the way back. Human beings started from Africa. Therefore, you were all this color at one point or darker. And then evolution over time, your environment over time, you changed. Now, this is why if you go out in the sun, you come back to this color, or, not quite as dark, but you come back to the brown, and then it fades away again. Because you are chemically different now. So, is it a learned behavior? 7 of Wands. We start with the defense card. On guard. This is also a card of being in a better position than the people against you. So, let's see. Temperance. This is a healing, and I get a restoration is what I get when I pick that up. I'm asking, is it learned? I'm going to get a little story here, though. Is it learned or is it taught? Is it in you? The Nine of Swords, about anxiety. Four of Swords. There's a respite. Retreat. Ten of Pentacles. It's the family. It's like the heritage. The family tree. Two of Swords. Crossroads. Going either way. The High Priestess. Interesting. Because I just always thought that racism is just way too prevalent and relevant to the human condition for it to not be in some people. Like, it's survived way too long for this to just be something that's handed down. But so is misogyny. Misogyny is also handed down. You know, this is the way that the men have always behaved, which is odd because, you know, I've said this in the live stream. Men are just mutated women. You know, every child starts off as female, and then your chromosomes and your testosterones and your every other kind of rones turn you into a male. So then you march around life controlling that from which you came from. But anywho, Five of Swords. Interesting. Come back to these two, but it feels to me already, well, I'll just tell you now, fill you in on where I am. I'm getting, let's go, I think this is talking just about the ugliness of it, because this kind of will shower into the rest of this. The Seven of Wands is like that, like I said, defense card, the card of being on guard, but defending against that which is coming against you. Temperance. There's a restoration, there's a healing, there's a hope. I guess that's where I got the restoration. And there is a Nine of Swords. This is about anxiety and fear, fear-mongering. There is a sit-out. There will be a pause in time where it will do two things. One, it will get extremely ugly, and then it will get quiet. Like, the racists will go back into their caves where they belong, all of them. That's future. But there's a heritage for racism. There's a foundation for it. But in every racist is a choice. It is a choice. This means it's not in you. It's in you as if it's in every human, because every human has free will. This is perfect for this card. Every human has free will. So every human can choose to do the right thing or the wrong thing in every situation. You can, you know, see a person standing on the corner or whatever and run them over if you want. Or don't. So it's like, you know, every person has a choice. So you have the heritage of it. It's deep-seated in human beings. This is why it kind of confuses me as to why it's survived so long. Because it has a heritage. It's deep-seated. This is not a weak thing. This is deep-seated in some people. But again, when this card pops up, it tells me it's not inherent. It's not in people to be racist. It's a choice. Because here's your intuition. The High Priestess tells you black or white, right or wrong, It's all the same. You're still a human at the end of the day. You can take blood from someone from China and put it in someone in Australia. As long as the types match, you're just fine. So it's an intuit. It's something in you that tells you you can go this way, the part that's already in you. Like I said, you have a choice. Or you can go Five of Swords. Five of Swords is about defeat and dishonor. You can choose either one. Defeat and dishonor, or the thing that's already in you, which is actually to love other people. You can be afraid of people, because I mean, if you imagine you are dark skinned and then there's another person that's pale, and you see each other for the first time, having seen no one of this color ever before, there could be something in you that would be afraid. And granted, you speak the same language, you'll get along just fine. You have the choice. You can either hate what you see or be interested by it. The King of Cups. There's compassion. Eight of Swords, or enslavement, entrapment, being bound and powerless. Compassion, enslavement, back to choice, right there in the middle. Ace of Pentacles, Three of Pentacles. The Ace of Pentacles is a card of the beginning. Aces are beginnings. Beginning foundation, beginning stability. Pentacles are earth signs. This is about stability. Can grow into something a little more substantial. This is the human condition. This is where we sort of graduate from this thing. The defending and the racism and the trying to restore, but you have the anxiety. We sort of graduate to the, we'll agree to disagree on certain things, but as far as color goes, we'll ignore that completely. We're all the same color. Every single person is brown. Every single one. Every single one. If you don't have a skin condition like vitiligo or albino, you are brown. We sort of graduate in stability. That's why you go out in the sun. Some of you will keep our Irish brethren on the prayer list, but if you go out into the sun, you get darker. You do not get brown from the sun. You're already brown. You just get darker. Happens to black people too. Six of Swords. That's what you want to see. That's the transition into something else. Three of Swords. There's the heartbreak, betrayal. Because this is a painful transition. This is not an easy one. Four of Wands. The house is built. It's opening night. And we end with Strength. It is not in us to be hateful. It is not in us to be racist. But it is in us to misunderstand. This is what the deadlock and the crossroads of the Two of Swords tells us. It is in us to misunderstand. It is in us to hate what we don't know and then make up the rest. That is in us. The hate for skin color is not. That will always be a choice.